Hello guys, how are you doing? Let me trust you're doing good. Welcome once again to this video. Today, I'd like us to discuss about the major components within a laptop motherboard and the functions of those components. I know I might not be able to discuss each and every component because there are thousands. There are so many components within the motherboard, which I might not be able to discuss them right now. But I'll try as much as possible to discuss the major ones starting from the main components of the laptop and those important components which are also found within the motherboard. So with me here, I have the motherboard for HP. This is the motherboard for a gaming laptop. This motherboard, as you can see, it contains several components. And for you, before when you start repairing them, you need to understand what are those components, what they do, so that whenever you have any issue, whenever you're dealing with any problem, at least you can try to narrow down your issue to a particular line or to a particular component. So as you can see, this laptop, this motherboard, it contains three main chipsets. You have this chipset here, you have this one, and you have this one. So each and every chipset is important. It has a major role within the motherboard. Without one of them, you will have a problem with your computer. Again, in case one of them is faulty, still you'll have a big problem. Okay, in case you find a motherboard which doesn't have maybe this chipset or this one, the manufacturer will find a way to integrate those components within this one because this is the main component. Actually, this is the CPU. Yes, this is the CPU of a laptop motherboard. It's a central processing unit. So all the activities, all the logic, arithmetic, calculation, anything which needs to be processed by your laptop, it is done under what? Under the CPU. So meaning this is the central processing unit. Your computer can survive without the rest. However, the manufacturer will find a way to integrate those chipsets within the CPU. So this is the CPU, as I had mentioned. This one, this is called the PCH. So this is a platform control hub. So this is the PCH. This PCH contain two main chipsets, that is the South bridge and the North bridge. The North bridge is a chipset which is responsible for ensuring that the processor itself, this one, communicates with the high-speed components like the RAM and the SSD. So the North bridge, which is found inside the PCH, is responsible for ensuring that the processor communicates with the RAM and the SSD. The South bridge, in the other hand, the South bridge, which is also within the PCH, is responsible for controlling all the input and output devices like the speaker, the audio ports, the USB port, the keyboard, the screen, all those input devices, or whatever you input into your laptop. Maybe you plug in your USB flash or USB mouse or whichever device you plugged in or the speaker. All those components are controlled by what? By what's called the South bridge, which is located within the PCH. Then you have this other component here. This is what's called the GPU. The GPU is the graphics processing unit. Meaning what? In fact, from the word graphics, it can tell you this something. This is a component which deals with the imagery. So the graphics is its main role is to enhance the imaging of the images you display. So it ensures that all the images you display within your screen are very clear. So it's for clarity of images. As you can see, this chipset, it contains some few other elements around it. So these elements or these components are called the VRAM. These are video random access memory. So maybe this one you have VRAM 1, VRAM 2, VRAM 3, VRAM 4. So the VRAMs are the memory for the GPU. Since we know the memory for the CPU is the RAM, so same case with the GPU, it contains their own RAMs called the VRAMs. So this one and it stores the information, the images, the raw images for the GPU, before all those data are processed and sent where and sent to the CPU to be displayed on the screen. Yes, as I mentioned. So this is all the process that happens here. Even though this one can process the images or it can ensure the clarity of images, once those informations are ready, they are sent to the CPU to be sent to the screen. The GPU itself doesn't send the images to the screen. It sends them where? To the CPU so that it can be sent to the screen. Yes. Let me give an illustration about the GPU. Let's assume you have two laptops, the same laptops, for example. Let's say you have 840 G5, for instance. You have one 840 G5 on the other hand, and then another 840 G5 on the other side. The two machines, the other one has the graphics, that is the GPU, and the other one has no GPU. If you power on the two laptops, let's say you display or you're playing a video with the two laptops, the other one with the GPU and the other one with no GPU. You will see the difference between their images. Another one, however, yes, you will have an image, you will see an image clearly. However, you cannot compare the quality of their images. If you can see for the GPU, you will find out that there's a high standard, or the images are more clear as compared to the other one which has no GPU. So, meaning the one which has no GPU, since it doesn't have what's called dedicated GPU, it will have what's called integrated GPU, that is Intel UHD GPU. So this dedicated chipset here, is called dedicated GPU. In case you don't have dedicated GPU, the manufacturer will ensure that you have integrated GPU, which is found inside the processor. That's the Intel GPU, which is integrated in here. So the memory for the CPU is this one. So these chipsets, these are the RAM now. So these ones were the VRAM. So these ones are the RAM. So this is the onboard RAM. Yes, you might find some other motherboards, instead of having the onboard RAM, they have the RAM stick. I believe I have one RAM stick here. So this is one of the RAM stick for the. So this is the RAM. This is the memory for the CPU. However, this is a RAM stick. This one is removable and for easy upgrade and so on and so on. So you can remove this one. Even this one, if it is when it is faulty, you can just replace with the other one, which is good, right? Yes. But in case you have a problem with these onboard RAMs, you will experience a big challenge, because replacing them is a bit complicated. And like the other one, you will just remove it from the RAM slot, then you put another one. So the CPU contains the RAM and the GPU contains the VRAM, right? Yes. So let me trust at least you've known something about the CPU, the PCH, and the GPU, and the VRAMs and the RAMs. So other than the main chipsets, we have also other components which are also located within the motherboard. We have some ICs which are responsible. So within the motherboard, you have several integrated circuits. Those are the IC components. Those components, some of them are responsible for power supply. They are called PMIC, that's power management ICs. They ensure that the voltages are distributed to the right components. So that's why they are called what? The PMIC, the power management. They manages power within the system. We have also other ICs which are responsible for signal distributions. Yes, they ensure that some signals goes to the right places, and also those ICs also are responsible for enabling the power IC to operate or to function. So the power IC, meaning they'll have to get signals from the signal ICs. Examples of those, you have the BIOS chip. The BIOS chip is one of the signal ICs. We have what's called the SIO. SIO is a power management chip within the motherboard. However, that SIO is not actually directly controlling the voltage by distributing the power by itself, but it sends out the signal. It sends out the signal to the PMICs. That is, it enables the charging ICs, for example, that is Intersil or the BQ. or enable any other BMIC which needs power for it to function. Then, other than those, we have what's called the BD controllers. The BD controllers, these are the power delivery unit. These are power delivery controllers which controls specific circuits within the motherboard. So within the motherboard, we will have several circuits. Uh, for example, here we will have a circuit which will be responsible for powering on the PCH. We will have a circuit which will be responsible for powering on the processor, that is the CPU. We will have a circuit which will be responsible for ensuring that the RAM gets power, or the circuits which will be responsible for ensuring the GPU gets power, or the Wi-Fi card gets power. So those circuits are controlled by what's called the BD controllers. As you can see this one. So this is the CPU. So this is my CPU. In my CPU, as you can see, I have a circuit here. This unit, it contains an inductor. This is R24. You have another R24 here. R24. So each R24 contains what's called what? The power switch. So these are the MOSFETs. Yes, MOSFETs are the power switches. So all of these ones are the power switches. It switches power from this particular point to the other side, this particular point to the other point. However, they don't switch power by themselves. It needs the commands from the BDs. So these are the BD controllers for this line. So this is the BD controller. This is a power delivery controller for this unit. This is a power controller for this unit. It's a power delivery controller for this unit. So each and every unit contains its own bar delivery, bar delivery IC. So this IC, whenever you have an input voltage, so the input voltage comes through this particular point. This IC will output or will control that voltage, which will be passed through this switch. Then throughout this these inductors will regulate that voltages, then send it where? To the CPU. As you can see, the outputs of these inductors go directly where? Into the CPU. The outputs goes into the CPU, into the CPU, into the CPU, right? Yes. So each and every main chipset, for example, even this one, this is a GPU. As you can see, for the GPU, you have these R15 916 004, R15 916 004. All of them, they have the switches present them. So these switches power from this particular point to the other point to be controlled, to be regulated by this inductor. Actually, the inductors regulate the voltages. Then first here, it is sent where? Into the GPU, right? Yes. Then there's a special IC I would like us to discuss about here. So this IC, I don't know whether it will be possible, it will be feasible for you here. So let me just read for you. This is an Intersil IC. This is Intersil 9241H. So this IC is what's called the judging IC. So this is what is responsible for judging. At the same time, this IC is also responsible for generating the main power lane within the uh, the motherboard. So this coil, this inductor, is what generates, what controls, what regulates that main power line from the uh, intercell. So the intercell will generate the main power line, main power, which will be sent now, which will be distributed into the motherboard. Since we will need several voltages within the motherboard, there will be some lines or the units which will need 1 voltage, 0.5 voltage, 3.3, 5.0, all those voltages. After this main power is generated from this inductor, it is distributed to the several BD controllers so that it can step down those voltages to the required amount of voltage within the system. Right. So apart from those components, we also have other very special components. That is the capacitors. The capacitors, we have three types of them, which are found majorly. We have what's called chemical capacitor. Chemical capacitors, I believe in my other video, in my previous video, I discussed about the capacitors. And we say the chemical capacitors are those capacitors which contains chemicals in them. Yes. Then we discuss about the tantalum capacitor. And for this motherboard, I can see it doesn't have the chemical capacitor. However, it contains a tantalum capacitor. Here, this is one of them. This is the tantalum capacitor. This is another tantalum capacitor. Where is the other one? This is another tantalum capacitor. There are so many. Then, apart from the tantalum, we have what's called the ceramic capacitors. These are MLCCs, multi-layer capacitors, like this one. Yes, and in my previous video, we discussed the details about these capacitors. Yes, their main role is to ensure that the voltage flow is steady. Yes, so it's for protection. It protects the components within the motherboard. So as you can see, each and every output or each and every power line have what? They have several capacitors along across the lines. So these capacitors will check power, will filter power, will ensure the voltage flow through that line are steady. Yes, meaning we will not have a big risk on the fluctuation of power flow. That's why we need what? We need the capacitors. So the main roles of the capacitors, one, we said to ensure steady flow of power. Two, we said it ensures that it filters power. Yes, it filters power flow. Again, yes, sometimes it stores charges for the or it store excess charges within the power line. So that whenever you have less power, it releases those charges which are stored earlier to the main line, improving the steady flow. That's how they ensure that there is steady flow of power within the motherboard. Apart from the capacitors, we also have what's called resistors. Resistors, we say their main role is to ensure that the voltage flow is checked. That is, it limits the current. It limits the current flowing. Yes, it limits the current flowing, especially the current which flows towards the components which are very fragile. That's why we need more resistors than capacitors because the resistors, in other words, they try to squeeze or it squeezes power. In case you have excess, squeeze that current so that we have exact current at the other side of the resistor. As you can see, this is one of the resistors. So we will have several types in terms of their capacity to limit the certain power. So this is one of them. There's a dark spot with in the middle, and sometimes there's some writings on them. So those are the resistors. This one is written 22 ohm, so meaning this one has 2.2 resistance. This one is 220, so this is 22 resistance. Yes. So they have different types depending on their resistance. Correct. So apart from resistors, we have what's called the BIOS. We have what's called the BIOS. The BIOS are the basic input output system uh, of a laptop. That the firmware which is responsible for booting of your computer. Yes, it ensures your computer is powered. So in layman's term, we can say the BIOS is like a life of a laptop. Yes, that's the life of a motherboard. Sometimes it can freezes. That's when you will have encounter some problems like maybe your laptop is not having any display. Sometimes your laptop freezes because the BIOS are frozen. Also, we have several types of them depending on their capacity. Yes, later generation laptops they are using what's called the 256 BIOS chips. That 256, it means it contains 32 megabytes capacity. Then most of the motherboards they use that's 128 capacity chips. That is 16 MB chips. Yes. So those BIOS chips are components like this one. You will realize them because they are not they don't have several brands. Like this one is a Winbond, and they have a capacity written on them. This is Winbond 25Q128. So it means these are 128 kilobyte capacity. So this is the main chip for this motherboard. It will also have an EC BIOS chip. So this an EC BIOS chip. EC BIOS chip is responsible for ensuring the CPU powers on. That's the powering of the CPU. Yes. So we've mentioned about the BIOS chip. Then we also have what's called the transistors. Transistors are the components which are responsible for switching some signals within the motherboard. We'll have a lot of capacitors, a lot of transistors, a lot of MOSFETs, since the MOSFETs are needed to switch power from one point to the other, right? Yes. So apart from those, we also have other components like inductors. So leave alone the stacked inductors. So inductors you have two types. We said we have these ones. These are called stacked inductors. Yes, these are stacked inductors. Stacked inductors, they have coil within inside, which are coiled, and it is soldered at one particular point and then soldered to the other side. They regulate the voltage. They regulate the amount of power going to pass there to the main chipset. These are called stacked inductors. We also have what's called thin film inductor. Thin film inductor is a component like this one. It's somehow like a capacitor. However, the middle of it can be either grayish or black. I don't know whether I believe you will see them. This component here and this one. These are two different components. This is an inductor, while this one is a capacitor. Why? As you can, the color for this is different. I don't know which color is this. I think it is beige or yellow. I don't know. This one is a black. So this is a thin film inductor, but this one is the ceramic capacitor MLCC. So this one still it regulates the voltage flow. It allows the voltage to go past here to the other side. Yes, it allows the voltage to go from one side to the other side. But excess current or excess voltage which goes past here, uh, that excess current, maybe in case you have an issue with this chip is shorted. If this chip is shorted, meaning it will release excess current past there. So in case that current is allowed to go past here without check, it will go and cause more damages beyond past there. So meaning we need this inductor to regulate that amount of current passing by there. Yes. So this one and the fuses, we have what's called the fuses. Fuses are components like this one. So the fuse also it regulates amount of current going past there. However, the fuses are more fragile as compared to the inductors. So in case you find a place where they have used a fuse, it means that place need more checked as compared to the inductor. All right. Yes. So let me trust that at least you're getting something out of there. Then apart from that, you have other components like this one. You have components like this one. These components sometimes it's somewhat confusing because they use a microphone on with this thing. So these are the microphones. However, sometimes they use them as crystals oscillators. So they use as oscillators. So these are crystal oscillators. So I don't know for sure which exactly one is this one. Is it this oscillator or the microphone? So one of them, you go and find out. Yes, yes, correct, correct. Actually, these are the microphones. These are the microphones. Here is an oscillator. So this is an oscillator, as you can see this one. So this is an oscillator. Oscillator, this is a component which is responsible for controlling the pulses. It sends the pulse, that is the timing. Sometimes these main chipsets needs some timing. Maybe after every certain microseconds, there are some instructions need to be sent somewhere. They keep those signals, they keep that timing. So that timing for those chipsets are done by what? By crystal oscillators. So most of the time, each main chipset contain its own what? Crystal oscillator. Not only the chipset, even the main ICs, the big ICs which needs some timing like this one. Yes. So this one there's probably we will have this IC and this BIOS chip coordinating together. So meaning we will need a crystal oscillator to do some timing. Maybe after a certain period of time, we need something from there or from there, right? Yes. So I want you to understand that crystal oscillator, its main role is to ensure that some timings are done. Then apart from that, we'll have other components like the diodes. The diodes, these are the components which allow one-way flow of current to ensure that power flows one way within the motherboard. Yes. So those diodes are components like this one. These are these are this black component here. Yes. It allows a voltage to move from one direction. So meaning they contain a cathode and another point. Yes. Yes. There is another one. This is another diode. Yes. Here's another diode. You have another diode here. Yes. So these components, it ensures that a current or a power is allowed to move in one direction towards one area. Then apart from that, as we had said about the ICs within the motherboard, we have also another one here. This is called audio codec. Yes, this is ALC. Whenever you see an IC label ALC, I know you might not see it clearly, but I am reading it for you, so don't worry because I am. This is an ALC IC. This ALCIC, this is the sound, this audio codec. This is what is responsible for conversion of digital sound into the analog sound to be amplified by the speakers. Yes, since you have a speaker here, for example, so most of the time this ALCIC is placed somewhere not far from the speaker connector. Yes, so probably we have a speaker connector here. Then that's why we have an ALC here, right? Yes. So I don't know whether maybe this is the speaker probably. Then say you have an ALC I see there. So whenever you experience a problem with sound, try to check on ALC I see. Yes. But again, don't jump to the ALC before you verify each and every mechanism factor you've checked, because once you start diagnosing the motherboard, it means you've eliminated the issue, maybe the speaker connector, the wires connecting the connector to the speakers, all those and all those. Before you decide to remove some chips within the motherboard, just make sure you understand clearly why are you removing that component or why are you replacing that component, right? Yes. So apart from that, there's another main chip which I wanted us to talk about. This is the ITE. This is an EC chip. So this is now what controls the powering on of your laptop. So this chip is what's called the EC. It ensures that your laptop is powered on. Yes, it controls the switch. At the same time, it gives the signal for the first 3.0 voltage and 5.0 voltage to be generated. And those voltages are what are sent to the PCH and to the processor. They are not sent directly here, but they are sent to the circuits which will control the switching on of the processor and the PCH. So, in case you have an issue of not switching, maybe you have a laptop which has no power or not switching, not powering on. Again, sometimes an issue is because of this chipset. I am not saying each and every laptop which has an issue of not powering or no power, this will be the problem. No, no, it could mean, so it could be this is the issue is this one, but again it could mean the issue is something else, because for your laptop not to power, it means it needs to consider all the factors are functioning well. In case you have even the slightest problem within your motherboard, your laptop will power on, since sometimes it activates its own defense mechanism. So laptop not powering on, it doesn't mean that you have a problem with the IT or the AC or the BIOS. It could be several things, maybe short, corrosion, anything. So uh, don't say that I said the laptop not switching on is because of IT or because of BIOS or processor. No, no. So that I am, in short, I'm trying to say that whenever you have an issue with your computer, before you decide to do anything on it, just make sure you diagnose it properly. Then you find exactly what is the issue with your laptop. So, guys, thank you so much for being patient with me. It has been some of long tutorial. So, I appreciate your patience, and we'll see. So, before we close up our tutorial, in case you have an issue with your computer, or in case you have someone who has a problem with his or her laptop, please, we do repair laptops, so you can connect them with us so that we might be able to help them. We do repair laptops. We do also teach. In case you have interest in learning laptop repair, you can contact me. Then we will chat the way forward. We do teach laptop repair course and also do the laptop repairs. So please subscribe to this channel, share with your friends, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.